Cougar Sports Saturday.
It's complete. Another touchdown!
Cougar Sports Saturday. A presentation of KSL Sports.
Left wing for three. He got it again!
BYU Sports Talk by Cougar fans for Cougar fans. Here are your hosts, Mitch Harper and Matt Baiamonte. On Utah's legacy home of the Cougars. KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM and 1160 AM.
Glad to be on board with you, Cougar Nation. Matthew Baiamonte and Mitch Harper. These off-season shows, man, they just have they find a way to be interesting. BYU basketball, it feels like every single week there is interesting news coming out of the world of KYU down in Provo, and we'll break that down. We got some football for you as well. These off-season shows, man, we do not slow down for a minute, Mitch.
That we do not. It's a loaded show. Let's unload what we've got on deck here in the starting lineup.
The starting lineup. A look at the stories making headlines right now. It's time for the starting lineup on Cougar Sports Saturday.
Starting lineup here on Cougar Sports Saturday. This is what we got on deck for you today. We've got Chris Burgess, BYU basketball assistant coach. We've got some football interviews. Austin Leausa from Southern Utah, new offensive line transfer. Connor Pay. We've got Camry Martin from the women's basketball. So loaded show. But we noted Chris Burgess, and the hiring of Chris Burgess is significant because, well, he brought a guy with him. In essence, he had options. But Keba Keita from Utah, newest member of the BYU basketball program.
The starting lineup is the first segment of Cougar Sports Saturday. And the Cougars probably got their newest member of their starting lineup in Keita at center. This is an enormous addition to this basketball team, Mitch. We have heard from nearly day one under the Kevin Young era that they needed a rim-running five that was going to put pressure on the rim. You might be asking yourself, what does a rim runner mean? Just think of the opposite of Ali Khalifa. He would stay between the three-point line. This person is highly athletic. He's someone that would set high pick and rolls, run to the rim for lobs, and a little bit like Atiki Aliatiki, except for someone that is much more polished, and that is exactly what Keita is. And when you hear all the offers that he got, Mitch, and the competition that BYU had for Keita, it even adds to the impressive element of this commitment because there were some big names coming after him, but yet it's Kevin Young, Chris Burgess, this new era of BYU basketball that secures him. And it feels like, hey, you certainly want to add depth, Mitch, but it feels like you've got a core 7 or 8 guys now that you can roll with in the Big 12.
6'8", 231 pounds is Keita, and you know he's not the tallest guy. He's not like a 7-footer like a Matt Harms back in the day, but incredible athlete, and we'll get more insight into Keita coming up a little bit later when Chris Burgess, we played that interview with Coach Burgess. But you're right. I think Keita is a significant piece for BYU. And look, I think that I do have some questions about what he is offensively as far as outside of 10 feet. At the rim, he's lights out. Last year against BYU, Cougar fans saw Keita firsthand, 10 points, 5 of 6 off the bench. Impact guy, made a difference. I think he got 4 rebounds, 1 block shot. He was all over the place, but there's room to grow on the offensive game for Keita. I'm very curious to see what someone like Kevin Young can do, and I think that's so fascinating to me, this whole team, Keita and Dallin Hall and Richie Saunders. You've got these players that are really good, and they're already talented. What can Kevin Young do in his NBA background and his kind of next level forward thinking in basketball? What can he do to get these guys to a higher level? Because I think in their previous situations for Dallin Hall with Mark Pope, for Cato at Utah, I think it would just been kind of what they've already been, status quo. But what can they do to become maybe all Big 12 guys? And that's where I feel like it's so exciting, this roster with the Keita addition, because I just think Young is going to think of creative ways to highlight these players' strengths.
I could be wrong with Keita too, Mitch, but I wonder how much of his lack of production statistically was being in the shadow of Carlson, where the focus offensively was get the ball to Carlson. The dude is a freak. He's a 7-footer. He can shoot it. He can put the ball on the floor. Did that squash some of the game of Keita? Because you referenced that BYU game. Utah doesn't win without that performance from Keita. Keita was the X factor in beating BYU last year. And for sure, I think there are some concerns about, can he hit a mid-range J? How is that going to work? But if you construct a style of play where there's a lot of three-point shots, there's a lot of high pick and roll, maybe you don't need that five to be hitting mid-range shots. If he is just crashing the glass, offensive rebounds, a dirty work guy, like a little bit like Foose, but more athletic than Foose, right? Because Foose is insanely strong, but you wouldn't say that Foose could guard 2 to 5, right? Whereas Keita and his athletic abilities, he's going to be the most athletic guy on the team. The day he steps onto the court in the Marriott Center, he could guard 1 through 5 in some cases. Tremendous versatility defensively, and he's relentless on the glass. The thing I love most about this addition too, there's no duplication of skills here. This was a vacant hole. They had nobody that could do what he do. So to plug him in, and now you've got that athletic big, a little undersized, but plays bigger than his size. It's just a huge addition. I might be reaching here, but I feel like he's certainly going to start at center. This probably means Foose is a bench man, and that's fine. He thrived in that role last year. Maybe it's Noah Waterman. Maybe it's someone else because you get that stretch shooting. And then you go, obviously, Richie Saunders, Dallin Hall, and there's a number of options at small forwards. It could be Trevenell. It could be Dawson Baker, maybe some smaller guards, and you go small. But we'll see. There's room to grow in terms of adding to this roster, but you had to have somebody like this. And to get him, I think it makes recruiting a little easier because now you can take a few more swings at high-end talent, knowing that, we for the most part, we've got all these positions filled. Now let's just go see if we can go add some talent and some depth.
BYU's got 9 scholarship players on Kevin Young's first roster. Of note, BYU, something to keep in mind, tomorrow, the transfer portal at 10 p.m. Mountain Time, it officially closes for BYU players. They had a little bit of extension because Mark Pope left for Kentucky, so they had from April 12th to May 12th for the portal for BYU players. So the final hours for if anyone does want to go into that portal, time is ticking for these BYU guys. But I get the sense that Kevin Young has really got players to buy in, and I think there's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of positive momentum for BYU basketball, and I just think too that all the buzz you hear on Kevin Young as well. I just love that he's no nonsense and he's business and it's straightforward. And I got to say, Matt, I just feel like, look, this isn't to try to compare the two eras, but I just feel like BYU kind of needs that now. Like, what you're going to get every single day. This guy's not going to reinvent the wheel every single day and kind of keep you on the edge of your seat. Like, he's going to have a system. He's going to have high-level thinking behind stuff, but I think there's going to be transparency. I think there's going to be I just really like what Kevin Young is about, and we're still getting to know him. But I just think there's so much good that's happening with him, and that he alone is reason to believe that BYU could be a really good team next season.
And if you like that from a media perspective, how do you think the players like it? Because a Dallin Hall, a Richie Saunders, a Trevenell, guys they're recruiting, this is the role. This is what we see for you, and if you earn it, this is what it's going to be. There's not going to be the Trey Stewart's getting yanked around. Either he plays or he doesn't. And if he doesn't play and then someone gets hurt and he steps in, that's the way it works in the NBA. I love what I've heard from Kevin Young on the NBA front in regards of, this is what I know, this is what we're doing here. We got a chief of staff, he's managing the roster, assistant coaches, some are going to recruit more, some are going to be on the court more, just like it is in the NBA. This is the way it's going to be. I think that is so critical to maximizing your roster. You look at some of the teams that are still left in the NBA playoffs, Mitch, Denver, as an example, Minnesota even, and what they're doing against the Nuggets. There's not a lot of guys that you never know what they're going to do. People have established roles. They practice towards that. They hone those abilities. And when you find the right mesh of skills and personalities, that's how you can make a deep run. UConn was that way. Honestly, UConn for the past couple of years, they're running this program the way that Kevin Young wants it to be run, which is guys know what they are, And look, UConn is not full of NBA players,
No.
Mitch. Do they have high-end NBA talent? Sure, they do. You can't win without high-level talent. But they've got a lot of rotation players who fit specific roles. And I think players are going to find a home in that regard. It could be a Keita. It could be a Richie Saunders. It could be a Trevin. Who knows? Maybe guys down the portal. It could be Kozlowski. We'll find out. But if you earn a role, you're going to have that role. And that was just not common in the Mark Pope era. Barcelo, sure, he had his role. But how many Seneca Knights and Trey Stewarts were there along the way where night after night you didn't know what you were going to get? That's not going to be the case with Kevin Young.
And you make a great point, too, about swinging potentially for the fences on some new faces, because I like this 9-man rotation. If Dawson Baker's healthy, this is a better roster than what we've seen maybe that final year in the WCC, some of the Mark Pope teams. I like this group. I think this is a good team. This is good enough to get the NCAA tournament. If you do get maybe 2 more guys, go with an 11-man group, and then you got Townsend Triple as a walk-on, Adam Stewart as a 6'11 walk-on. There you go. I think this is going to work out. I think BYU is going to have a tough schedule next year. We've talked about that, but I like the trajectory and the feeling that BYU did not lose the momentum gained from year 1 in the Big 12. I think that was the biggest concern when you lost Mark Pope to Kentucky. Everyone was like, okay, we know it's his dream job. Okay, great, whatever. But you don't want to lose that momentum, because there was preseason way too early lists that said top 10 team next year. And there was a feeling of, well, that's out the window. That's completely gone. Now it's like, I don't know if I want to say top 25 right now, because you still got to fill out a few more of those scholarships. But hey, why not? I mean, it's a possibility now because Kevin Young's there.
Hey, if somehow Jackson Robinson comes back top 25, and that's still in the mix, and we've talked about this before, but Jackson Robinson and Kevin, look, Robinson wants to get to the league. Kevin Young can sell the league. Kevin Young, for a long time in Philadelphia and Phoenix, was running pre-draft workouts. He knows how this goes. So if Robinson doesn't hear what he wants to hear, maybe he could return to BYU. Let's take a break, Mitch. On the other side, the Pitino connections to this program, they just won't go away. And look, I don't want to spoil the tease. So we'll connect the dots on the other side as we keep talking BYU basketball.